Hi, my name is Aaron J. Marks. You can find out more about me at aaronjmarks.com. I'm a visionary purpose coach and a metaphysical leadership mentor. To my knowledge, I'm the only one in human history who's claimed either of those titles, and those that know me well tell me they couldn't imagine better ones for me. For as long as I can remember, I felt like my mind has worked just a little differently than most people's. At times it's been uncomfortable, but I've begun to see that it's actually incredibly important and that there's never been a better time to share the way that I think and see with the creative and entrepreneurial leaders out there who need to hear it. This is my podcast, A Higher Level. Everything we think, see, and do here happens on a higher level, and that makes all the difference. For some of you, these are among the most important and transformational conversations you will ever hear, and they will fill in something you may not have even known was missing, but something that is essential for your happiness and transformation. This podcast is all about creating a space for these conversations, a place to explore your deepest and most persistent questions about the human condition, a place to dream, play, and muse about the meaning of it all, a place people tell me only I can help them access, and a place of crucial importance for the human spirit and our future as the human race. On a higher level, everything is vast, rich, beautiful, and deeply optimistic. Join me there now, on a higher level. Hi, my name is Aaron of aaronjmarks.com, and I'm a visionary purpose coach and metaphysical leadership mentor. And welcome to another episode of my podcast, A Higher Level, where everything we think, see, and do happens on a higher level. It's great to have you with me, and I hope you enjoy it. So, welcome back to this series, which is about 5 perpetual paradoxical problems of the human condition. Problems is one way you can say it. Dysfunctions is another one. And if you haven't listened to the intro of this, you should go back and do so, because I get into, kind of the paradox of mental health and why I don't think mental health is even a coherent concept. But that's really kind of what these 5 show me, is that even in health, we are, it's like it's an inherently unhealthy condition. And so, even in order to have what we call health, there needs to be just sort of a prevalent, pervasive dysfunction to the human condition. And all 5 of these point in that direction. So, number 1, copulatory happenstance. So these all deal with our perception of time, our concept of time in some way. This is the only one that kind of does. Like, the other ones, it's much clearer. But this is, and I was just writing about this today, and I didn't see it so clearly as when I wrote, oh, this is really where we grapple with, the idea of being versus non-being. The fact that we have being, and we didn't have to have being, and that's a really marvelous, overwhelming thing to realize. But it takes a being to realize it. So it's like, if we don't have being, you can't even contemplate it. And it's like, what is that? It's like, that's a very mysterious metaphysical thing. So let me briefly talk about, it's like there's a friend that I talk to a lot, and like we both acknowledge that we're like, it's like the most stimulating conversation we have of each month. And this person is a professor of philosophy, and we've been meeting for about a year, and we came up with this idea called ontological depth perception. So let me talk about ontology really quick, because like this is a central theme for me. And I call myself a metaphysical leadership mentor, but it's like, I could have called myself an ontological leadership mentor, but it's like, I don't think anyone knows that word, like who tend to be in the audiences that I talk to. But I don't know, maybe that would have been a better word. But I could have called myself a Platonist leadership mentor, because like there's a strong Platonist element to what I do, which has come out in certain episodes. But ontology, it's a study of being, and this is a very old word in metaphysics, and it contemplates the nature of what it means to be, right? It's a little different than existence, because it's like, we look at rocks, right? We don't call them beings, but we look at animals and we tend to call them beings. Plants, I'm not sure. And that's like some of these things I just haven't looked into. But with humans, we absolutely are, right? It's like the language that we use to describe humans is ontological. human being. Ontology is being. So, we're ontological humans. So it's like there's something, we have a deep metaphysical sense of the nature of human existence that we don't about other things, right? And this leads into this conversation about purpose, right? It's like that's kind of what leads there. In that it's not really relevant to other kinds of creatures like it is in humans. I don't know. It's like, and even as I'm talking through this, this is something I haven't realized that before. It's like we don't have cow beings, we don't have fox beings, we don't have ant beings, but human being. It's like it's just built into our language for some reason. I don't know why. So we have this quality of being, and the human condition is to become more of the being that you are, more of the being that you're meant to be, and that's an ontological process, and it's a metaphysical process, and that's why I use the kind of language that I do. So who are you, at your core? Now, one of the things that's true of all of us is that we have awareness and consciousness and metacognition, which means that we're aware of our cognition in a way that no other being seems to be. And so we can contemplate the very idea of being itself, and even postulate or imagine what it's like not to be, which, as far as I can tell, is unique to the human condition. Now, here's why I call it copulatory happenstance. And here's where you have to think about deep time and big history and all the history that brought us here, all the natural selection, the sexual selection that brought two people together. And again, or not again, but this is not an image anyone wants, but we're all here because of a certain thing that was done by two people, and and many of us have done that very thing and created new beings, right? It's one of those funny things that we all know, like, intimately, so to speak, but we just don't really talk about in polite company. It's like, oh yeah, we have these biological processes that we carry around with us and drive a good deal of our behavior, and that's why the realm of life is so significant. It's like we're deeply biological beings, but we're not comfortable with it. So if you think about the way and so like years and years, like millions, I think it's millions, it's either millions or maybe billions of years ago, sexual selection came into play. It was so it's like sexual selection is relatively new in biology, because first organisms multiplied just by splitting, and then eventually what was, I don't know, discovered. It's like, that's not the right way to say it, because like supposedly this is unguided, but by crossing the gene pool, there were considerably more options that made creatures more fit for the demanding habitats that they were growing into. And so that's sexual selection. It's like, okay, so now we mix with other organisms and increase the gene pool, and that's why it's important, that's why it's helpful, and ultimately that created this sort of explosion of of possible life, that's brought us to this moment. And so sex, the concept of sexual reproduction, and wherein you need two beings or two gametes to procreate, is it's considerably older than humans. So it's like, compared to sex, humans are babies. So it's like we can't avoid it, right? It drives a lot of our behavior, drives a lot of our socialization, drives a lot of the structures that we create around socialization. And so two people get together and think about all the combinations that are possible, right? So it's like, I don't know how many eggs a woman starts with, but it's like I feel like I remember reading somewhere that it's considerably more than than she ever ovulates, and every month there's a new egg, right? And then with men, it's like, well, and I'm sorry to get graphic here, but it's like men can have a sexual release multiple times a day, and as you get older, you tend not to, but I think I read somewhere, so it's like no one can count the sperm, in a male sexual release, but just kind of by the process of multiplication. I think I read recently that there are as many as 3 billion sperm in one male ejaculation. So I think mostly it's not that much, but there's a lot of sperm. There's a lot of sperm in male semen. So which, as far as I know, is the only kind of semen. But if you think about all the different possible combinations between a man and a woman, someone did do the math, and there's 64 trillion possible combinations between every man and woman. Okay. And I mean, I think I read also recently there's been maybe like 100 billion people to have ever lived. So I don't know what factor that is, but it's like between every man and woman, there are that many times more people than have ever existed. And so think about all the men and women who are together and could conceive, and think about all those possible beings, right? Every sperm and every egg, right? That's a possible being. The vast majority were not conceived. Only a very, very small minority was. So whatever probability that was, that's your chances of existing, and you won. That's how close you are to not being. So that's copulatory happenstance. You exist purely as it's like the odds were stacked so highly against your existence, but here you are. That's copulatory happenstance. And what can we say of the being, of the existence of all the other 63 trillion 999 billion 999 million 999,999 possible combinations? They don't have being. They don't have this quality of being that you do. So do they have non-being? Is that something you can have? Can you have non-being in a way that you can have being? That seems wrong, right? So like, what of their consciousness? It's like, that one combination that created you created your consciousness. If it was one sperm to the left, if it was 1 month later, if it was 1 day earlier, you'd be a different person with different consciousness, and it wouldn't be you. You would have a different being, right? And so here you are, and you're unique, and you're infinitely valuable, and you have potential, and you have visions, and you have dreams, and you have aptitudes, and you have skills. That's copulatory happenstance. So the odds were against you. Are you an accident? I don't know. Part of the paradox is that we're, science, the scientific method and thought process seems to indicate that we're it was created in an unguided way, but we have a sense of purpose, like that's what humans do. Like humans are happier when they have a sense of purpose. So that's a paradox. I don't understand why that would be. But it was more likely that you didn't exist than that you do. And so here you are. And so what do you do with it? You came so close to non-being, but instead you have being. That's copulatory happenstance. So that was the first perpetual paradoxical problem of the human condition. Like, man, every time I sit down to record about this stuff, I'm never sure how it's going to come out, how I'm going to navigate it, but I'm always pleasantly surprised. So that was kind of fun to talk through. So I will see you in the next episode where I talk about narrative trauma. My name is Aaron of aaronjmarks.com, and I'm a visionary purpose coach and metaphysical leadership mentor. And this is A Higher Level, my podcast where everything that we think, see, and do happens on a higher level. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for listening to A Higher Level. I hope that got you seeing, thinking, and acting just a little differently, or maybe even a lot. When you act differently, you get different results. But we need to start with the vision and the thinking. How do you feel? Ready to go and make positive, inspiring changes in your life and work? If so, it means what we're doing here is working, and I would love for you to let me know if this is you. There's a bunch of ways for you to get in touch with me. You can go to my website, aaronjmarks.com, or look for Aaron J. Marks, Visionary Purpose Coach and Metaphysical Leadership Mentor on Facebook, or you can look for Aaron J. Marks on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever is easiest for you. And if this is speaking to you, I might suggest that you think about becoming one of my leadership coaching clients. In our work together, we'll have conversations on this level, but tailored just to your life and aspirations. You really can't imagine what a difference this can make for your mindset, vision, and results. The first step after learning more about my approach is to book a free, no-obligation discovery call, both of which you can do at aaronjmarks.com. If your intuition is nudging you, don't wait any longer. It is likely the next step along the marvelous journey of wherever you are here to go and whatever it is you are here to do. And I can't wait to meet you. Thanks again for listening, everyone. I'll see you on the next episode when we'll continue to see, think, and act on a higher level. I'll see you then. A Higher Level is the official podcast of Aaron J. Marks, visionary purpose coach and metaphysical leadership mentor. Learn more at www.aaronjmarks.com. A Higher Level is written, recorded, edited, and produced by Aaron J. Marks. Music is by Arie. I'll see you next time on A Higher Level.